Okay, this is going to be some help for those kids that were absent last week in my honors. We're just going to do a quick polynomial review of what we kind of did last week. Now, a polynomial, poly meaning many, like polygon, even the schools like Cal Polytechnic, they have multiple different technical type majors. Polygraph, I wonder what that one is. I don't know. But poly means many. So like a monomial, mono means one, right? So monomial would be like 2x squared. That's like one term. All right. A binomial is like a set of 2x squared plus like 4x. Okay. There's two separate terms there. All right. And then a trinomial, we talked about that even today in class. We're factoring them now. Let me autofocus it so it doesn't keep doing that. And a trinomial would be like a 2x squared plus 4x plus like 6. Okay. And after that, they don't really go into too many main terms. But with polynomials, you can add these, you can subtract them, you can multiply them, and that's what we learned last week. We didn't really do division too much. We did do greatest common factor, which I will cover as well. But this is kind of something that I want to make sure you guys have a sense of, okay? If anybody wanted to review this and get a better sense of what they're doing from last week, they really didn't get it. Maybe they missed 1 or 2 days, but we've had this flu kind of epidemic going. So a lot of you guys are absent. This is the best way to catch up. All right. I'm here Thursdays after school too. So let me put that on tutoring Thursdays. All right. So let's first talk about after school. Let's talk about adding and subtracting. So if I was to add, and you have to have that plus sign in the middle, okay? And I'm putting some negatives in the second part just to kind of help you look at it. If I'm going to add them, all I have to really worry about is just combining like terms. So all I'm going to do is make sure that when I do combine like terms, that I make sure that they have the same exact degree of exponent. And I think there's an ed puzzle on this. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. This would be negative 1x squared or just negative x squared. And then this would be negative 4x. Okay. And actually, there is an ed puzzle in this. I just remembered this. So I'm not going to spend so much time on adding and subtracting. Let's talk about multiplying. So if I'm going to multiply, let me move this down. This is the important one today. For sure that you get this in your head because you're going to be doing this a lot in the next part of the unit. So 3x plus 4, 2x plus 5. If we're multiplying these, we need to take this as remember in your science class, like a Punnett square. And I want you to create your Punnett square for these kinds of multiplications. And really, all you're doing basically is distributing the 3x into the parenthesis and multiplying. And then you're distributing the 4 into the parenthesis and multiplying. I mean, that's basically a lot of distributive property. But I like to set it up with the Punnett square just to organize your work. And then I have this here. So now if there were any negatives involved, I would have put negative here or there. But all I did was 3x plus 4, I put it on the side here. 2x plus 5, I put it up here. Okay? Then all I care about is that first square. And what is 3x and 2x when you multiply them? We're multiplying. We're distributive property, multiplying. 6x squared. Don't forget you have to add those exponents. All right, what about this next one? 3x times 5. You're going to get 15x. All right, what about 4 times 2x? 8x. And then 4 times 5? 20. So your Punnett square is pretty much done, but you need to look at this and see, are there any like terms? If I was to write this all out, and if I did write it out, I would write 6x squared plus 15x plus 8x plus 20. And I would see that the middle part here, those are like. So you would add those together, combine like terms, plus 20, was that 3x plus 20. And that's what you would do, okay, to multiply. Make sure if this was like a negative 5, this would have been a negative here, and it would have changed this to what? Negative 15 and negative 20. Okay, so make sure you understand the negatives when they come into play as well. All right, the last part was a GCF, and that was Thursday night's homework. And Thursday night's homework is a little interesting because it's talking about pulling out a GCF out of I'm actually going to show you part of the homework right now. So if it was looking like this, you're trying to pull out something that has in common, like all of the terms have it in common. So I'm going to look at this one here, And if I look at this one here, I'm going to say 14, 21, and 21. I know they all have 7 in common. That could be a GCF. Do they all have A in common? Okay, A1. Do they all have at least 2 A's in common? No, they only have 1 A in common. So you put 1 A out there, and then make your parenthesis. 7A goes into 14A. Well, if you divide this out, 7 into 14 is 2 times, and the A is already getting pulled out, so the A is just going to sit there. And if you were to multiply this, what's 7A times 2? It's 14A, and that's a good way to check your work. All right, plus 7 into 21 is 3. A, how many A's are we pulling out? Just 1, so 1 is still there. And again, if we did this distributive property, 7A times 3A is 21A squared. All right, and the next one would be 3 again, but instead of A out of the 3, it'd be A squared, and that would be the rest of that part right there. Okay, well, let's do one more while we're here. Ooh, number 10. I could pull out an 8. All right, and I could also take out how many x's they all have in common. Do they all have at least 5? Do they have 6? No, they only have 5 in common. That's the most they all have in common. And then this would be negative. You can even put 1 if you need to, but usually you wouldn't. 1x squared. Why is it squared? Because this is 5 and that's 7. You're dividing it. Remember, you're taking it out. Plus what? 3x, because you're taking 5 from the 6. And then plus, ooh, why did I say 8? That shouldn't be 8. I thought that was 16. That shouldn't be 8 at all. This should end up being 4, right? So let's do 4 instead. Remix. Here we go. 4, what? 4x to the 5th. The x was correct, but the 8 was not. So this would be negative 2x squared plus 6x plus 3. Okay. All right. Ask questions Thursday after school is my tutoring time, guys.